let's get started. We're going to talk about foam rolling to start and where, how often, and plus me being lazy. So foam rolling, I want to go through, I'm actually going to go to the whiteboard, develop a list for you of what is really good to get with a foam roll and what really you can't get, and then how to use my smush technique. Anyone who's watching this, if you go into the app or into the website, you go to seminars, there's a full 30-minute seminar on how to properly foam roll different areas. But let's talk about how to foam roll and how to target areas and when you should foam roll, because if you do it every body part, foam rolling more than you're running, and that's not really the goal. So let's go over to the whiteboard. Oh, let me show you why I'm lazy. So everyone has their coronavirus stuck in the house purchases. So my wife and I, my wife runs as well, her name is Celia, and we were on the couch and we're like, oh, we need a foam roll, and we were super lazy. We're like, I just don't want to get on the floor. I don't want to do it. And so our coronavirus purchase, let me know in the comments who's bought something during the pandemic that probably they didn't need, but we bought a trigger gun, and I'm going to talk about these things. This is actually super nice. I'm actually going to post the link in the comments for you, anyone who wants one, and I'll talk about it. I'm not getting a kickback or anything. I did buy this one a couple weeks ago. It is pretty nice. I just put the link in the comments. But super quiet, and let's see if I can just turn it on. I'll show you, because some of the ones that they have out there, oh boy, that's not what's supposed to happen. Some of the ones they have out there are super loud, and this one has been really, really nice for us. And it's pretty quiet and works really nice. But how do you know, like, do you use a gun? I can't believe that fell out. Do you use a gun? Do you use a massage, like masseuse, foam roll, all these things? Let's go talk about that. If you're interested in one of these guns, they're really nice, and they don't fall apart like I just showed you. And that gun is, like, there's a trigger gun or a trigger or something, and they are like $700. The one that I just posted is really nice. It's $200. And if you leave a review, they give you a free battery. The trigger guns are really, really nice. So let's go over to the whiteboard. Let's talk about that. I can't believe that still fell apart. Oh, no. Well, here we go. Whiteboard. All right. So foam rolling, a couple things that I think you guys should know is where to foam roll, how to foam roll, and what's the difference between getting a massage, foam rolling, the trigger guns. Essentially, they're all the same, right? Like they talk about, everyone talks about like getting laser treatments or using heat or using ultrasound. Those are all forms of heat. It's just different ways that you're applying it. And the same thing with all this stuff. So you have your trigger guns, you have your foam roll, you have your massage and your tennis balls, your cross balls, the things with the spikes on it that people are jamming 6 inches into their ass cheek to try to release something or other. But when push comes to shove, they're all doing the same thing. They're all working on soft tissue. The foam roll is great. I like that gun a lot because I can sit and just kind of go through it, and you can just like relax, and it's a nice easy way to do it. So if you have the means to get one, they are pretty nice. But the foam rolling, I think what I want you guys to realize with foam rolling is, come on, be the good marker. Foam is to use this, what I call the smush technique. And the way I think about this, and this is really interesting for all of you guys, there's probably something in here that probably says I'm a psychopath. Here's my good marker. As I constantly switch from capital letters to lowercase to cursive. So someone who's like a psychiatrist probably knows there's something wrong with me. But the smush technique, and what this essentially is you think about like a bag of jelly. It's 3 seconds is the time, or 3 reps, sorry, 3 reps. I want you guys to think about smushing jelly back and forth. So when you get on your foam roll, and I talk about this in the seminar that's inside the app under the seminar section, I want you to get over something, and when it hurts a lot, that type of foam roll where you're like, oh my God, I might cry, or you're like holding in, you're cussing, or maybe you're not holding it in, but you're going over that really sore spot. A lot of people just do one of 2 things with their foam roll. They either wing back and forth really quick, or they get on a sore spot and they sit on it. What I want you to think of is those sore spots being knots, scar tissue with really poor blood flow. We want to break those suckers up and get them starting to realign their fibers and become more normal like tissue. So what I want you guys to think of is, imagine you have a piece of tissue and you have the scar tissue in the center. Scar tissue isn't like normal tissue. Normal tissue has nice parallel fibers just like this. And then scar tissue is crosshatch. It's all over the place. It's not normal tissue. So what I want to think about is when you're on the foam roll and you hit this, I don't want you to just wing up and wing down. I want you to go up and over this about 3 times. And I want you to think of this as being a bag of jelly. So if you want to smear the jelly to one side of the bag or peanut butter and then pull it back and then push it through. Nice, slow smearing type motions or smushing will help kind of just drag that blood through the area and then pull it back through again. And what'll happen is as you foam roll back and forth over this tissue, is you can start breaking it down. And you'll start to take that scarring and it'll start going from this crosshatched presentation to less crosshatched. And then it can turn back into normal tissue like it's supposed to. Like a lot of people think scar tissue is bad. It's not bad. Scar tissue is the initial phase of healing. The trouble with scar tissue is when you let it sit there and it becomes a big issue because it sticks around longer than it should. So just know that scar tissue is somewhat normal. You just got to break it up. So we have this 3 repetition smush technique where you're going back and forth over the tissue. That's really important. But how do you know what you should be foam rolling? There's some areas that are just really tough to foam roll. And if we look at the foam side of things, I'm going to put your best areas to foam roll, which is your calves, your quads, your IT band. What else? And then I'll come back to that list. I'm going to put other over here. You have other areas like your glutes, and I'll kind of loop that with piriformis, your hamstrings, and your feet. So that's like the bottom of your feet, maybe your shins. Actually, I won't put shins here. I'm going to put your shins over here in the foam rolling side. These areas over here, glutes, piriformis, ham, feet, I don't traditionally like to use a foam roll for those areas. What I'd rather have my runners do is take a tennis ball, no knobby tennis balls, nothing with the spikes on that trigger point selling you. If you have them, great, use them. But you can just use a simple tennis ball and work through those areas. The trouble with your glutes, piriformis, ham is that there's so much tissue back there. There's so much flesh and meat that you can't trap it at all. The reason why the quad works really well is because your quad, your femur and your thigh bone is here, and your quad muscle sits right on it. So as you foam roll, you have this really hard bone to press into. The problem is on your hamstring, here's the bone, your hamstring sits back here with a ton of fleshy tissue. So when you try to foam roll over it, you get like more of a spongy sensation. So the tennis ball or the trigger gun work really good in these situations because they allow you to be a little bit more local in it and not so much widespread. And then the bottom of the feet are just too small. I mean, they're too small to get a foam roll. So you don't need like a super hard golf ball. You can certainly use one, but same thing. You're still using the smush technique on all of these areas. You're getting in there and you're just trying to work the blood through. When you're using the tennis ball on the glutes and piriformis, you can try to lay on it. I'll point this down for a second. I like to take it, put it in my cheek, and then lean against it and work on rocking back and forth. And you can squat down and squat up and come back up to work it into the glute, and then side to side with that ball sitting right in my glute. That's how I like to use that portion of it. I don't like to do a ton of foam rolling back there. So calf, quads, IT band, shins is great for the foam roller. Other, glutes, piriformis, ham, and feet. And if you're super lazy like the Gonzer family, you get yourself a gun and you can shoot it all. I do think the foam roller is better than the gun. I will be truthful about that. It's just when you're lazy like me, you don't want to get on the ground, then you use the gun. So we have all these areas, and if you spent in the foam rolling seminar, I talk about, you want to spend about 3 minutes on an area. So we have 3, 6, 9, 12. We have about 24 minutes of foam rolling here. That would be, and that's just one leg, so really 48 minutes of foam rolling. How do you know what you should foam roll and what you shouldn't foam roll? The best thing I can tell you to do, again, I talked about this in the seminar, is get on there and start to identify areas that are problems. So when you go over your IT band, if it feels like someone's got a hot poker in your leg, or they're taking a knife and wiggling the knife around in your leg, that's a problem. That's an area. Normal tissue, you should be able to foam roll and not really hurt. But over the course of training and in life, you're going to start to have breakdown and things fall apart. And that's when the foam rolling is going to be really good. So what I recommend doing is spot checking. If you have, go after the low-hanging fruit. I got that from Pat. Get the low-hanging fruit or the big rocks out of the way, because those are going to provide you the most benefit. So if your IT bands are the worst, clean those up. Even if your calves are terrible, clean up the IT bands, get them looser, because after a week or so, you'll start going up and over them and you're not going to be cussing anymore. And then what I'd say is go on to the next spot and move and add one thing in a week rather than trying to do them all. What was I going to say with the foam rolling? What usually I do is once you clear an area and you move on to the next one, I just come back around and just spot check. I get on the foam roller once a week. Nope, that's fine. That's fine. Oop, that's a little tight. Spend some time there. And you legitimately 5 to 10 minutes once a week can get through this. Maybe as your training comes up, you do a little bit more. But there are certain areas that are way better than the others. Hamstring in particular, a lot of people try to foam roll their hamstrings. You can get the glute a little bit with your foam roll. It's not that bad. But hamstrings are very difficult and feet are very difficult with the foam roll. So hopefully that helps. As far as parameters, it's all in that seminar, but you can foam roll every day if you're big enough of a problem throughout your body. But once, twice a week is plenty. That's what we use in our training plans. Okay?